Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sea of Tranquilities, the review crew. We are the review crew. I am your host, Jamie Laszlo. Today's crew, what's up, boys? What's going on? Today, we got Todd Evans is in the house. Scott Barry's in the house. Phil Aston in the house. Rick Labonte is in the house. All these guys have been on previous shows. They all reviewed some new releases in 2024. And it's December, which means everybody's doing their best of the year lists. I don't know about you guys, but I had 90 albums to sort through. And I start my list first 1 or 2 weeks into January of every year. I get a new release and I put it. It's number one so far. And every new release I buy throughout the year goes above or below. And then I finalize it in December. And that's what we got today. So I asked everyone to pick their top five of the year. And we're just going to go around pretty much in one round, and everyone's going to do their 5 to 1. And then if anyone has honorable mentions at the end, we'll go around one more time. So 5 to 1. It was a tough task. I have a feeling we're going to have all kinds of different genres, all kinds of different bands, old and new. We're going to start with Todd. Todd, give everyone your top five albums of the year.
Okay, at number five, this is somewhat of a melodic death metal supergroup. This is Cemetery Skyline with their album Nordic Gothic. Um, got a couple of people that are in this, Michael or Mikhail Stan from Dark Tranquility and Santiri Kallio from Amorphous. Full disclosure, Amorphous is one of my favorite bands. But this thing, first of all, look at that cover. It's fantastic. The back cover also is really great. This sounds like uh, very melodic goth music from the 80s. If you like The Cult or if you like um, Sisters of Mercy, you'll absolutely love this album. And the guy, the lead singer, Michael Staine, I'm not so sure if I'm saying that right. Somebody hopefully can correct me in the comments. But nobody had ever heard his clean voice until they started recording this record, and which I think is fascinating. And it's very, very good. I absolutely love it. It kicked two very, very accomplished bands out of the number five spot because I had to admit just how much I enjoy listening to it. It's a very enjoyable listen. We'll talk about the people that it displaced later. But my number four is a Scottish indie rock band called Camera Obscura. And this album is called Look to the East, Look to the West. And Camera Obscura, they took some time off. They were one of their members, Carrie Lander, passed away in 2014 or 2015. So they took 2015 to 2018 off, and then they came back, and they didn't release an album until 2024. But this is a very interesting band. The main person, her name is Tracy Ann Campbell, and she is writes almost all of the music, and they replaced the person who passed away with a woman named Donna Makioka, I think is how you say her name, and she had never been in any band of any real notoriety. So very, very honest and very nice lyrics about relationships. And Tracy has a beautiful voice and fantastic album. The title track is the last song on the album, and it's absolutely beautiful. Really, really nice. Okay, let me see if I can get this booklet out of here. My number three could very well have been my number one, and that is The Likes of Us by Big Big Train.
Oh.
This album came out in March. It came out on the 1st of March of 2024, and I listened to it. I loved it. I kind of put it away for a while, and then in the summertime, I was on a plane, and I don't like to fly. And so I was on a plane, I was listening to it, and the song Beneath the Masts, which is one of the two longer tracks from the album, really hit me at that point, really touched my heart.
Oh.
And then I put it away for a few more months. And for the last 2 months, it's been on heavy rotation. It could very well have been my number one. The song Beneath the Mast is by far my favorite song by Big Big Train. a beautiful counter melody towards the end that always gets me every single time. And the new singer, Alberto Braven, very, very good. And the way that they integrated him into the band is that they took Nick DiVirgilio, the drummer, who also sings, and he's got a very high range.
Hmm.
They kind of put them together. There's a lot of harmonies, and there are a lot. Every once in a while, Nick will take a line, and so it kind of eased the pain of having to adjust to a new singer to have both of the guys sing. Very beautiful album. I absolutely love it. My number two. This is going to be no surprise to some people who know me. Neil Morrison, The Resonance, No Hill for a Climber. Neil started this band probably most likely because of the Mike Portnoy, his partner that he works with a lot, going back to Dream Theater. But this band is great. It's made up of local people from his hometown in Nashville, and a bunch of really young guys. One guy, Chris Riley, is just a compositional wizard, and the main guy, the main singer, Johnny Bisaha, is fantastic. Philip Martin, the drummer, it seems like it would be really difficult to step into Mike Portnoy's shoes because everybody's going to be listening, but you don't even notice that there's a big. I mean, he doesn't. He's obviously not as good as Mike Portnoy, but he's good enough that you don't think, oh, well, I wish this had Mike Portnoy on it. He's somebody that has been performing with Neil for a long time, Philip Martin is, and he has been playing at the Morse Fest concerts that Neil does in Nashville for the last 10 years. I mean, since he was a teenager. And so the big fans have been sort of watching him grow up. So that's going to be fascinating when these guys tour. The title track, I think, is, let's see, it's 28:49, No Hill for a Climber. Spectacular. It's got those great soaring Neil Morse melodies that almost sound kind of like Broadway. They're so, sophisticated and lush and great album. I talked about it way too much already. The My number one is The Cure, Songs of the Lost World. You know, I just couldn't deny this album. I couldn't put it anywhere but number one. It's been since it came out. It's only been out a month, but since it came out, it's been sitting at number one. And beautiful record about the topics of this album are about getting old and dealing with it and wondering what the heck happened? How did I get here? And I turned 60 this year, so I've been asking a lot of the same questions. But for the past 20 years uh, uh, Robert Smith has kind of acted like he wasn't really quite sure what he wanted The Cure to do. He tried to reinvent it. He got different producers that tried to do different things. He stripped it down to a three-piece, and then he added Paul Thompson back, and who played all the keyboards by triggering them on his guitar. So he went through all these phases, and he's landed here on an album that actually really sounds like he's embracing what The Cure is supposed to sound like. So I really applaud him for that. It's exactly what I wanted them to do. The best performance by far of Jason Cooper on the drums. I've always thought that Jason's drumming was maybe not quite right for The Cure because it wasn't simple enough. But in this album, he's doing a great Boris Williams impression and adding his own stuff as well. But that's my number one, The Cure, Sons of the Lost World. And
Great
we'll
stuff.
talk more about what got kicked out of the list later.
All right. I like the first single from that Cure album, and it made me, because I've never been a Cure fan, but I was like, hey, that single's pretty good. Maybe I should listen to the whole album. And I just never did. Maybe I should.
I thought it was funny since the album came out that people talk about how he doesn't sing for about 3.5 minutes, and it's
Yeah.
like, who does that? And it's like,
Those
hello,
long instrumental
death
passages.
metal,
Yeah,
prog rock.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
a little bit.
All right, Scott, top five of the year.
All right, sir. Well, I think it's just been a spectacular year for new music. I have bought personally and listened to 30 new releases in 2024, which is about a third of what Jamie's done. That's not including reissue and archival releases. For me, that's a lot. I can't remember the last time I've listened to that many new releases in one year, and I'm pretty sure the last time the year started with 19 something, not 20 something. So it's been a while. And it took me a little while to whittle down my list to top five, but in the end, I'm pretty happy with this. Although the actual rankings of the top five are a little, I would say they're kind of in flux. I mean, this is pretty accurate for this week, but next, ask me 2 weeks from now, it could be a whole different lineup. My number five is Todd's number one. Uh, Cure songs of a lost world. Even though I have this at number five, I may spend well, I was going to spend the most time on it, but since Todd's already kind of touched on it, I won't spend that much time on it. Uh, it was released November 1, and yeah, nobody had reviewed it on the review crew yet until Todd did just a few minutes ago. And this is the Cure's first release in 16 years. For me, I think it's their best easily since 2000's Blood Flowers. They released a couple of albums after that one, but I found both of those kind of disappointing. So my expectations for this one were a little on the low side. But I'm pleased to say that the time off from recording seems to have done them a lot of good. It's got most of what you want and have come to expect from a great Cure album. Very dark with that gothy atmosphere, and some excellent guitar and keyboard playing. Robert Smith, he's still got it. He's an outstanding voice here. I think this is a worthy successor to some of their best albums. Pornography, Head on the Door, Disintegration. Maybe not quite to the level of those, but maybe not too far behind them either. And I wouldn't mind hearing one or two kind of upbeat, playful songs in the mix. They tended to do that in the past. Maybe even though the overall albums were dark, they would throw in a Love Cats or an In Between Days, something a little more upbeat and playful. But what's here is of the highest quality. So yeah, definitely give this 4 stars. My number four, Fontaine's DC, Romance. I first reviewed this one back on August 31st. I listened to it a bunch since then. I like how the band is continuing to expand on their Irish post-punk sound and take it on a more atmospheric approach on the last couple of albums. But they still managed to have a lot of that punk attitude and fire and at the core of their music, and that's what kind of drew me into them in the first place. A lot of twists and turns, and it doesn't stay in one place for too long. They dive into psychedelia, shoegaze, and it's even got a little bit of Alice in Chains style sludge in it. Uh, the closer favorite, that's become one of my top 10 songs of the year. Easily 4-star album. My number three, and I'm just guessing this will come up on other lists, Opeth, The Last Will and Testament. I suspect I won't be the only one having this, but it's easily one of the most anticipated albums of the year for many SOT viewers and contributors. And Jamie reviewed it last month. It's been a whole 5 years since their last one, and spoiler alert, the growls are back. And as Jamie and Pete stated in their reviews, there's just one hell of a lot going on here. It's heavy and doomy, and it's got Michael Rockerfeldt's growls in just the right places, all the while alternating with his melodic, clean vocals. I just love the way he shifts back and forth with that. As always, there's a lot of complexity in the music in terms of instrumentation. I love the way they can go fast and heavy and growly to that more melodic and sometimes acoustic driven stuff, often in the same song. Uh, and there is everything here that makes a great Opeth album. The only thing missing is the song titles. I wouldn't mind them actually having had actual song titles on here. There was one exception, the final song. Um, give this 4.5 stars. My number two, Gary Clark, JPEG Raw. I reviewed this one back in March, and it's one I keep going back to frequently. Gary's fourth album did not disappoint. It's a wonderful blending of several styles that he works in, and he does it just seamlessly. He's diving into R&B, hard rock, funk, jazz, hip hop, all layered over that bluesy bass at the heart of each song. His singing and playing are, I would say, as good as they've ever been. And the collaborations with other artists, including Stevie Wonder, they work very well and seem natural, not forced. The songs have a great flow, one to the next, and everything on here is just done with great passion and heart. Uh, My number one for the year, again, this is today. Got Jerry Cantrell's "I Want Blood." I was kind of hoping that I'd get to review this one back in October, but Jamie beat me to the punch. One of the advantages of being the host, I suppose. The album just blew me away when I first heard it. I heard Jerry's earlier solo albums, and although there were some good songs on each of those here and there, but they all those albums seem to be lacking something. But I'd say on this one, he is right on point, and his powerful, heavy, sludgy guitar and vocals, I just love it. It's just a great one from start to finish. I don't think there's a bad track on it. More than any of his other solo albums, it sounds the most like it could be a lost Alice in Chains record. I'd rank it just behind Dirt and Jar of Flies if I were ranking it with Alice in Chains album. Yes, it is that good. Um, is this metal? Is this grunge? Yes and yes. But at the end of the day, I really don't care what you call it. Sometimes I think we get a little too caught up in semantics. It's just a great heavy rock album that brings the doom and the sludge, and it just doesn't let up till the final note. My top pick of the year, 4.75 stars. Didn't quite give it, not quite enough to give it a five, but it's a great one.
All right. Yeah, Jerry
Yeah, great.
Cantrell is great. We might be hearing about that in the future here.
Had a feeling that might come up somewhere else. Yeah.
Bill, I'm very interested to see what you have for us.
Well, I'm outside of this. I'm just about to edit my top 35 new albums of 2024, and so my top three are static, but four and five are in flux, as as others have already said. So they might move around, um, but these are all albums that have meant something to me this year. That are kind of how they've made me feel. So number five is a band called Sendelica, who are from deepest Wales in the UK, and the album is called Requiem for Mankind. This is they all their albums are instrumental primarily, and I suppose the way of describing them was if you can imagine the singers of the Doors, Hawkwind, and Sabbath staying upstairs in a club, and downstairs the musicians have gone and decided to have a bit of a jam. That's not too far removed to what this band are like. Um, but this one is without doubt their finest hour. Pete Bingham is the mastermind behind the band, who plays everything: acoustic guitars, stylophone, bass, synth, mellotron, and field recordings. So that's really prog when you say that you also are in charge of the field recordings. But there's a track that takes up, well, actually, there's only four tracks. So on CD, this is like 80 minutes long. And it's hard to differentiate between where one bit ends and one bit finishes. There's one segment that's about 18 minutes long, which sounds like The Last Gig in the Sky by Pink Floyd, with a similar type of female vocal, but more kind of atmospheric and in the background. There's kind of like a distant sax player and flutes, great guitar playing. There's Sabbath riffs, and then there's kind of more ambient stuff. Um, it might sound like, because it's instrumental, it's the kind of music you'll have on while you're making a cup of tea or you're pottering around the house, but it won't do that. You'll feel yourself drawn to just sit down and be immersed in it. So that's number five, Requiem for Mankind by Sendelica. Number four is an album that, in a way, is kind of outside of my comfort zone, but also Opeth are as an album that nearly made this, and it's Blood Incantation with probably the best logo in the world. Imagine trying to put that on your back of your denim jacket. And this absolute elsewhere. Just
Start
two
drawing it
tracks.
on your book cover in school.
Yeah,
Even if
yeah,
you can't read it.
exactly. It should be part of all art classes in 2025. In a way that Sendelica's album music is all about the downfall of mankind, and obviously Blood Incantation are obviously also concerned about this whole thing. But this is another band where the growl death vocal side is almost used like an extra voice. It's like an extra instrumentation in the music. I mean, there's elements of this kind of singing with bands like Meshuggah or Death themselves where I find it quite hard to kind of connect to. But for some reason, Opeth and this band, it just works. But what's so marvelous about this album is that you can go from absolutely full on the fastest double bass drumming you've ever heard in your life with Metallica riffage, and then it drops in a spin of a coin into kind of like a Pink Floyd Camel type atmosphere. Um, it's with
And
acoustic
it makes
guitars.
sense when it happens.
Yeah, it's just that's what I like about it, and the reason why it's sitting where it is because there's so much to explore. Each time you play it, you think, oh, I forgot about that part. But also the sheer dynamics about it, the fact that you do have very Dave Gilmour-esque guitar playing in places, lots of Camel synthesizers, and then this absolute thunderous growl of metal just interspersed with it. So it's a really good album, and when I reviewed it on my channel, I thought people are going to think, well, it's not for me. But so many people went off and when they were brave and listened to it, and they came back and said, you know what, Phil, that really is a great album. Well, the next three aren't budging at all. Number three is Judas Priest, Invincible Shield. I think this is a real. Well, actually, I was equally brave when I ranked Judas Priest albums, put this at number one. And I would still do that. I do think it's that good. I think the band have been through so many emotional and health crisis, the way that they've managed to do this. And I think about myself at my age and how I'd feel about going out and treading the boards for 2 hours at night, and how I'd rather just put my feet up and have a cup of tea. You know, these guys in their 70s are creating music like this, you know, out the gates. You know, the first three tracks, Panic Attack, you know, really set the scene. I know, to me, it kind of pulls in aspects of Turbo, which I know a lot of people will run to the hills if you mention that with Priest in the same sentence, but I quite like it. You know, Painkillers in there, but also I just think it's immaculately produced. You know, this is a proper Friday night album, and every night is Friday night with Priest. So that's number three. Number two is another rock album, and this is Mog's Motel, Phil Mogg from UFO. It's very different to UFO in many respects. It's more rock and roll. It's more raw. It's not as it's great stuff. But Phil Mogg, I think from where I sit here in the UK, he's a highly underrated vocalist and lyricist, great storyteller. The way he draws in his kind of influences, his favorite films, Princess Bride, Shane, and stuff. But it's just a really upbeat, positive album. And and I love the female vocals as well. There's kind of a almost a Bob Seger aspect to some of the songs, especially on the choruses. So that is my second choice. And number one is Time Machine by Cats in Space. This band to me kind of re-plugs me into the sense of wonder I had when I was a teenager and just coming home from work and having my tea and then rushing down to catch the bus to go into town to meet my mates in a rock pub or whatever. This is all of this music to me is just positive. You know, if I turn on the news, wherever you are in the world, it's pretty dark. This band just shines a light into that. Great choruses. The verses almost sound like choruses. Great riffs. Yes, you might think, oh, it sounds a bit like Queen, sounds like City Boy, sounds like ELO in places. There's all sorts of influences sprinkled on top of this, but they're absolutely fabulous rock band. And the choruses, the vocals, the drum sound, I think this is one of their, at the moment, it's their finest album to me, and I've got them all. And I'll be honest, that when I first heard of this band, I thought, Cats in Space, what kind of a name is that for a rock band? You know, I'm a rock fan. I like serious names, you know, Cats in Space. But now it all makes sense. But, you know, tracks like My Father's Eyes, because they know their audience. They know that as they look out into the crowd, lots of people have experienced loss or all sorts of things going in their lives, and they tap into that, but they tap into it from their own personal experiences as well. But this is a fantastic rock album, and that is my number one.
Good choice.
All right. Rick.
Well, roughly about how many albums do they have?
Top of the top of my head is at
six,
least
right?
half a dozen. Pardon?
At least six, right?
Yeah,
That's what
yeah,
I keep
yeah.
hearing about, and it's one I've kind of like had on my list to check out, and I think I might have to start.
I
Yeah,
mean, I like Start the Sun a little
Oh
better
yeah,
than the last one, but the Time Machine's a great album. It's a
yeah.
great album.
Are they long albums? Do they do long albums?
Uh, no, they're about.
No, but it feels like you're watching a concert because it's
Yes,
epic. You wait from the beginning. It's like watching a movie or it's something. It feels full.
very
Like you get a
theatrical.
complete diet of whatever they did. You don't walk away saying you wanted more or that was too much. It was just enough for me.
Very
Am I
cool.
right, Phil?
Yeah, absolutely spot
I
on.
mean, they're really creative imagination, and it's so well recorded. The production is so superior. Yeah,
Yeah, and they're all in the same room when they record the albums, which is quite unusual now.
yes, it is. Well, at least from
Yeah.
previous years, yeah.
Cool. All right, Rick.
Okay, so I'm thankful for the honorable mentions that we get to do because this was a difficult task for me, and mainly because, um, we first of all, I'm not unlike Jamie. I bought about 68 new releases, and 8 were live albums, and the rest were all new releases. And I gotta say, in the prog world and the rock world, I'm so proud of a lot of the achievements that people have done. What makes it a disadvantage is that because, like Jamie said, I didn't do what he did, where he made a list and keeping track. With me, I have a way of monitoring how much listening time these albums give me. And so, but I like that idea, Jamie. I'll try that next year for us. But what I did was just I picked the 5 that I have played the most time. And that means there's a reason for me to grab them, but there's a disadvantage because, some albums came out in the fall and they really climbed up the list. But some of them I've been listening to since March and they're like in my DNA now. And to be fair, some of them is because I went and seen them in concert. So you want to be very familiar with the record. So I'm just putting that out, the disclosure. But I got to tell you, I'm so proud of the achievement of a lot of the talent that you guys have expressed. And also what I didn't include, because I said 68, but it's 3 more CDs outstanding. Judas Priest, Opeth, and I'm thinking I forget. Anyway, the 3 CDs out there because Canada Post was on strike and I haven't, so I can't include them. And I know how good Judas Priest is. The only one I don't have here in my collection because it's on my office stereo, and that is Cat in Space Time Machine, but I have it in my honorable mention. But let me get into the top 5. The top 5 end up being not the best work of these artists and bands, but I'm so proud, and I have to admit, it's probably sentimental reason that my heroes are putting out these records, and I'm happy that they are. And but it doesn't mean it's their best work, but it goes to show you how promising their career still is after all these years. And let me start with number 5. This one I went to a lot. It's not my favorite album he did, but I just love it. And it made me proud because his voice sounds like he did in Peace of Mind. It's Bruce Dickinson and the Mandrake Project. And it's my favorite package of all of them. I did like the artwork of, Cat in Space and many other great ones I'm going to talk about. But you guys know how me and Peter love comic books and stuff like that. So just to have this, but man, what an epic performance. And I've been listening to a lot. And even when I take a break, I realize just looking at the tracking list, I can hear all the choruses in my head. And that was what I really appreciate about Dickinson's album is that he made all these hooks and choruses that you couldn't help thinking about it, whether it's Finger in the Wound, I don't even want to start naming because I like every one of them. Face in the Mirror. But his voice, he showed some promise of something like I heard in Pieces of Mind performance. And you don't necessarily hear that in every recent Iron Maiden album. So I don't know, he was drinking from the fountain of youth there, but I got a little bit of snapback of the past and I was really proud of my hero. And so this resonated with me. And so I put it away for the summer and brought it back because I listened to all these albums because when Jamie asked me to do something, I do my homework faithfully and I made sure I listened to all these stuff 3 times before I put them in a ranking. And even then, I feel like Scott, this could change before the new year's over because these albums are so
Absolutely.
promising. So next comes in line is, seeing these boys back together, and it's actually up for a Grammy for Best Rock Album right now, so you don't know if they're gonna get it. But the Black Crowes, and I
Oh,
saw them in concert, so this got a lot of play, and everybody that came for a ride want to hear it, so that adds in the hours. But Happiness Bastard, it made me proud that they kind of went back to the beginning. It's like a full circle for them. And even though I had grievance because I felt like the song too short. I mean, I wanted at least 45 minutes, not 40 minutes. But I can't deny that I listened to it a lot. And to the point where I was looking forward to the song because I see them on every tour of my friends. And to see them play this live, I was looking forward to new songs, right? It wasn't say, hey, surprise me. I was looking for this album. When you do that, that goes to show you that they're doing something right. Next comes along, and it's another. I know Phil gave a great review, and I feel strongly about this band. But I think it's because the connection also made with one of the members. That's gonna happen, Derek Sheridan. But the Black Country Communion, Derek played on my song. So, but not. I was watching this waiting for this. And sometimes when you wait so long, you can have the hype so much that you could fall on your face, but it wasn't like that with me. I felt like I would listen to a whole concert without hearing a single song that I've heard before, but I felt complete, like the Cat in Space. It was like a complete show. You get everything that you want out of this band, the blues, the rock, the showmanship, but they were very song-based. They did care about the song. And without repeating what Phil and Pete did, but they tapped in a lot of the greatest bands of the past, Free, Zeppelin. There's so many signature sound that you heard before, but never delivered in a package like this. And so even when I got that, I went and got the this the lyric of Glenn Hughes, and he signed it, and I got
Oh
the
wow.
T-shirt from their office. So I was really excited about this, and it's been playing almost all year round. Next comes to another hero of mine, and it was a surprise for me. I think it's because, I thought his last album was fantastic, and I thought his best albums were going to be from his previous band. But we're talking John Anderson, true, with the Band of Geese. I was very proud of the performance. Solid from top to bottom, and it really moved up in the rank only because I played it. I'm not crazy with the album cover, to be honest, because it looked like, something like a Christmas a card or something. But really the music is outstanding, and his voice is like another guy drinking from the fountain of youth. You wouldn't know it, just like Glenn Hughes and Bruce Dickinson. And then you guys know how I feel about this band. And also I saw them in concert, so there's going to be a lot more airplay or radio time or whatever on my player. But Deep Purple. I mean, I don't, again, none of these are the best of their career, but when I heard what they did, they came out of the gate, and I was so looking forward to hearing them do these songs live, and it really translates so well. And so it just has a little bit of fire and umph into so I've been a fan of Deep Purple post Richie Blackmore for a long time. I think what they're doing with Bob Ezrin is fantastic. He got a great workflow. He knows them. He can get inside their head and bring out the very best of Deep Purple. Bring the deep into the purple. But this one brought out, it's almost to show you that these guys still have all that fire in the belly. The age doesn't change anything. If anything, just like wine, it got better. And the longer you keep it in the bottle and let it out, it's gonna taste better. This is a great record. And I got the one with the DVD, so you see the making of it and so forth, so you feel a little more close. But I just was so proud of our guys to come up with something so relevant and so good. And look how good it's doing in the charts in Europe. And so I'm so proud, and I think that's why it resonates with me. So that's my five, and it's because a salute to the heroes of the past that can show the world that new music still. No one can ever say that, oh man, they don't make new music like they used to. We've just shown that already with a list so far.
all right. That's cool. All right, I got my top five, and I reviewed all of these on previous shows, so I'm not going to go into it too much. I like I said, I did buy Well, I've listened to 90-ish albums. I bought about 88 of them. I wish I could talk about all of them. I can't, but I will put a list behind me and I'll go to the next 10 with every album I review or talk about, and you can read or pause your TV or phone or computer and see. So this is 46 to 55. Indulge yourself. As I talk about number five, which was hard. Number five was, I wanted to put a lot there, but the theme of 2024 for me was the 90s are back. And I had
Mm.
a lot of nostalgia with that. And maybe that, maybe that's why I picked these albums. It probably influenced me a lot to pick these albums. And these are not the best albums. I'm not saying that they're not technically the best played or whatever. These are just the ones I enjoyed the most. So I could have given some albums like A's down the board, but they weren't the ones I played the most. These are the ones.
Right
And
on.
going with the new Fish Evolve at number five. Fish. I played the hell out of this summer. I was just playing it right before this show, and it reminded me of how great it is. If you take the first, where are they? Right here. Hold on. If you take the first one, two, five Fish albums, which are pretty special to me, and then they started losing a little something, something with people think Billy Breathes is one of their best albums. That's when they started losing a little something for me. Um, if you would put this right after 1994's Hoist, I'd be saying the first six Fish albums are really special. It would fit right there perfectly. Number four. Did you read? There's the next 10. I am also going with Jerry Cantrell, I Want Blood at number four. I'm going to tell you how good this album is. All right.
That was the third one. I couldn't remember.
I'm going to see Jerry Cantrell in February, maybe March.
Cool.
If his set list is this whole album and maybe 3 or 4 Alice in Chains songs at the end, I'm walking away a happy man. That's how good this album is. That's how
Wow.
much it sounds like Alice in Chains. If this was an Alice in Chains album and came out in 1996, we'd all be talking about the best Alice in Chains albums of all time, and we'd have this in our top three. It'd be a classic. 2024, though, it just gets forgotten a week after it's released because that's where we are, the state of rock and roll in 2024. But we're all trying to keep it alive, aren't we?
We didn't forget it, Jamie.
No. People used to say rock and roll will never die. It's on life support. There's the next 10. Pause. All right. I am going with Opeth. Last Will and Testament. I talked about it enough. I talked about the music enough. Let's talk about my box set. Well, I got the box set. This is the lid. That's how thick it is. And there's your thing there. And it comes with the album. Now, this album is crazy and very busy, but I listen to it so much that the songs are the songs now. Without those crazy shifts and time signatures and stuff, I'd be pissed now because that's what the song is to me now. It comes with the Blu-ray and CD, Blu-ray and 5.1. It comes with the vinyl. I didn't open any of that because something's wrong with me. It comes with a letter from Michael Uckerfeld. It comes with a certificate saying it's limited to 4,000 copies. It comes with this blank thing, so you could write your own will and testament in it. And I just might do maybe when I'm on my deathbed, somebody get my own Opeth box set ASAP before I die. And they're going to say, oh, do you need a pen? Yes. No, actually, no, because the box set comes with a pen. To write your last will and testament, it comes with a pen and an inkwell.
And the ink is not blood, right?
Yeah, and a little something rolled up. I don't know what the fuck it is. I didn't unroll it. And then it comes with that's it. But yeah, so I pre-ordered that. That's the bottom of the box. So loads of fun there. Love the album. Pause. All right.
see it. Like, yeah.
My number two should have been my number one, but my number one, nothing was going to beat it. Any other year, this would be my number one.
I
And
didn't know Pat Benatar released an album this year, Jamie.
no, she hasn't since 2003. What's up with that shit? Um, this is Sergeant Thunderhoof, The Ghost of Baden Hill. What an album. What an album. Like I interviewed the lead singer, Daniel
Mhm.
Flitcroft, like a month ago or so. He was nice enough to send me three three albums on vinyl, a CD, two t-shirts, and this cool sweatshirt.
Nice.
All the
Yeah,
way from the UK.
We
So
Well,
yes.
you did give him a glowing review, and you got a hell of a response for sure.
And right, and he did an interview with someone else previously to mine a few weeks before, and they got like 74 views. I got him 1,100 views, so I hope I sold some of that album for him. You guys, anyone here would love this album. My wife thinks it's great. We were listening to it one night, and she says, "Text them. If they play Columbus, they can stay here for the night." So I told her. He says that's very nice of you. So it's not easy listening, but it's so easy to listen to. Some of the best vocals I've heard in years.
Wow.
wow, yeah.
There's so much they've been around for I don't know. They formed in 99, but they've been releasing albums for 18 years, 15 years, something like that. His voice just got better and better. He doesn't even sound like the same guy on the first album. Number one, it was never going to change when it came out in April. Drum roll, please. No. It's got to be Pearl Jam, Dark Matter.
Uh,
Yeah, this album came out right when I needed it. It came out the same month I lost my dad. This was an emotional crutch for me. I went to go see them shortly afterwards in Vegas. This came out at the right time. They played Vegas at the right time for me. I took that trip at the right time. It was just perfect. Love this album. It's probably already in my top five favorite Pearl Jam albums of all time. And I feel like I've been listening to it for decades. So yeah, it I'll tell you this. I always consider Pearl Jam one of my favorite bands, but I never even thought about, I guess I never even really thought about it. But after this album and after this year, I'm saying they're my second favorite band of all time. Iron Maiden just moved down to number three, and Pearl Jam took over number two because of this album, because it just refueled my love for them. They're like a home cooked meal to me now when I listen to them. So that's my number one. There's six through 15. Pause. Ah, let me get some confetti out of the way for you. Ah, Blood Incantation almost made it there, number six. Awards. Disappointment of the Year award. Blue Oyster Cult Ghost Stories. I listened to it once, put it on a shelf. I will never listen to it again. I understand it's old songs re-recorded and left over. God, it stinks. Least favorite album of the year. Blue Oyster Cult. Who would have thought that would have been my least favorite? Taylor Swift is above Blue Oyster Cult. One of the
yeah, they made up for it with the second and third night shows.
Taylor Swift. Surprise of the year. Dua Lipa, Radical Optimism. I was looking for a good pop album this whole year, and I was looking. That's why I listened to Taylor Swift. Maybe that's my pop album that I need this year because I like good pop. You just can't find it. It's all 99.9% shit. Found this a couple weeks ago. I'm like, there it is. Came in right under the buzzer. So, surprise of the year, I found a pop album I really like, Dua Lipa. I guess she's a big star, but since I'm not in the fold of what's going on, so I'm out of the loop. But pretty cool. Best return to form. Happiness Bastards, Black Crows, Smashing Pumpkins, Agori Mori May. They brought back that grungy sound. They brought back that old faces rock and rolly type
Mm.
thing. And Discovery of the Year. This is a band I discovered. They're on their second album. Now this is a band that I'm going to be like excited to see where they go from now. Old Horntooth, Morning Light. What a great Doom album. Might be a little too slow for some people, but I love it. Top 10 songs of the year, Pearl Jam, Wreckage. One of the best songs they've ever done. Period. Love that song. Paul Bearer, where the light fades. Beautiful, beautiful song. Sergeant Thunderhoof, I could have picked any song off that album, but I'm going with The Orb off Octavia because that's his best vocal performance. Number 4, Bruce Dickinson. Rick, Fingers in the Wounds. Love that song. It's one of my
Is it
favorite
great?
songs
Yeah.
that he has sang of the past 2 or 3 Iron Maiden albums. It's great. Old Horntooth, there they are. Morning Light, great, great Doom song. Willie Nelson, Kiss Me When You're Through. Such a fantastic old school outlaw country song. Jerry Cantrell, Afterglow, could have fit on Jar of Flies. It's just as good as anything on Jar of Flies. Fish, Oblivion, man, if that came out in the 90s when I was listening to a little less new releases and I had more time for newer stuff to play on repeat, I would have played the hell out of that album and the hell out of that song. 9, Gatecreeper, The Black Curtain. Boy, they make death metal fun, and that is a fun song. My wife is not a death metal fan. I brought her to a Gatecreeper concert. She decided to go at the last second. Guess who was out on the dance floor dancing a Gatecreeper after a few glasses of wine? And you know what? I've been like an eighth grade schoolgirl playing the hell out of Dua Lipa Houdini. I guess it was a big hit earlier this year. I see why. It's a great song, so I threw it on there. So now you got pop, you got some classic rock, classic metal, you got some country, you got some alternative rock, you got some newer like stoner rock, you got death metal. You got it all right there. Pause. Is that it? Is that all I got? Yeah, there's the end. Let's get physical. Come to my Let's Get Physical page and talk about everything that is physical media, from books to CDs to Blu-rays to comic books to posters on your wall, whatever. But we're going to go around one more time with honorable mentions. Mine were already on the board. I don't need to talk about it. So, Todd, what you got?
Okay, well, there were a couple albums that sat in my number 5 spot. One of them, which is currently my number 6, sat there for a really long time, probably about 3 weeks, and that's Opeth Last Will and Testament. I was a little bit cynical about this album coming out because I didn't want the death growls to come back, but I'm totally fine with it once I heard it. There are times during that Opeth album where you're listening to it and you're thinking, this is composition on another level. I mean, there are some things that I'm still trying to figure out, and some melodies that surprise me every single time. My number 7 was David Gilmour, Luck and Strange. I almost looked at this like an assignment, like David Gilmour's got an album, I should listen to it before I make my list. And it really surprised me. It's really a beautiful album. He sounds older, but it works.
Mhm.
And I just absolutely love it. The performance from his daughter is beautiful. And then the other one I'm going to mention is the Pineapple Thief. It leads to this, which you
Yep.
can see behind me there, which I thought was going to be top 5, but it just got pushed out. That album, by the way, wasn't that well reviewed when it came out, but it is a really slow burn. It took me a
Mhm.
long time, but once I finally got it, I really enjoyed it. Oh, and then I want to mention also the French band Clone, The Unseen. I loved their album from a couple of years ago, and I love the
Good
new Clone
choice.
album. Guy's got a great voice, and melodic metal with saxophone. Doesn't seem like it would work, but it totally does. So yeah. Those are my honorable mentions.
All right, Scott, you got some?
I got a few. Didn't prepare any more remarks really, but I can wing it. Blood Incantation, Absolute Elsewhere. Thank you to Jamie and Pete for bringing this one to my attention. Uh, love the mix of prog and death metal and space rock. It just barely missed my top 5 this year.
I love how people who don't normally listen to death metal are buying that album by
Yeah,
the
yeah.
drove. So many people, it makes my heart warm.
there's just a
Yeah,
lot going on there.
yeah, it's
There's too
fantastic.
much good stuff to ignore. Yeah, sometimes the growls can be a bit of a challenge, but it's worth meeting that challenge. Really, it's just too much good stuff not to ignore it. Um, Also, Theories of Emptiness by Evergrey. Thanks to Rob Lasanti, who reviewed this album earlier this year, bringing this band to my attention, who had been around like forever, and I just found out about them. Great band, great album. Um, No Name by Jack White. Loving this Jack White album. I think it's the best thing he's done in years. He sounds great. Just great rock and roll album. Red Clay Strays reviewed this one earlier in the year. Great country rock, southern rock, sort of Americana. Uh, Great batch of tunes. And Turbulence, I believe George Lamy covered this earlier in the year, and it's great, well, prog rock album that really grows on you. Uh, just like finding things every time I listen to it. Yeah, definitely a band that I've definitely done a deeper dive on and highly recommend it.
All right, Phil, do you have a couple?
I do. Sitting just outside my top five was Big Big Train and The Likes of Us, which is a beautiful record. Absolutely, I've played that tons of times. Next would be Deep Purple and number one. I'm a huge Deep Purple fan. There are no bad Deep Purple albums, there are just some better than others. And then next would be Neil Morse and The Reasoning and No Hill for a Climber. Um, I just I just love that record. And I know there's kind of a cheesy positiveness to how he writes his music, but it ticks all the boxes for me. Next would be Steve Hackett and the Circus and the Night Whale, which I think is one of his finest records. And finally would be To Follow Polaris by The Tangent, which is a superb album as well.
All right, Rick, I know you got a few.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm gonna go really quick because you guys mentioned them, but I just love that we all have good taste in music. Just that some of us bought different CDs in this list, but a lot are in common. Big Big Train. I gotta mention Frost double
Oh yeah,
album.
yeah, yeah,
What a
yeah,
powerful
yeah,
thing
yeah,
they did
yeah,
here. What a statement. Um, um,
yeah.
David Gilmour, Arc of Anarchy with Bumblefoot and Jeff Scott Soto. This is from George Lamy, DGM. We got HFMC with the Eternal Snapshot. First album for this band, amazing. Emerald City Council, you gotta love it. Motion Carries. Beerfish is back.
Oh
This is
yes.
a promising album. And like you said, I won't say anymore, but Neil Morris, wow, what a surprise. Because a lot of people are saying, he's writing the same albums lately. Not true, folks. This is a totally different experience. Bumblefoot did it again with Derek Cheridian, with Whom God Destroyed. Pretty
Yeah, yeah,
powerful
yeah.
record.
Yeah, it's a good
My
one.
brother already mentioned this, so I have to say the great choice. Dead Daisy comes back. Not the best album, but they come back with, powerful stuff. And then last but not least is Doug Pinnick. He has his own record, but it goes so quick. It's only 30 minutes, but it's 11 songs on here. They're just like a Beatles album, goes real fast. And then I did mention, this is for Pete, because he mentioned this a lot, and Jamie was encouraged for this. White Dog, Double Dog Dare. This was a new discovery for me, for them talking about it on the show, and I went and got it. And we have to mention Russell and Guns, Medusa. That was a pretty good album. Unfortunately, that was his swan song. We didn't know it, right? And so I was glad to see he was doing something. And then the last one here, Collective Soul. I mean, it's supposed to be a double album and it went on a single, but on vinyl, it's a double album. Me and Jamie had mixed reviews on this because we like some songs, but it's pretty much the formula. If you know the Collective Soul, they just stick with it. With nothing surprising. But it was definitely still, it's comfort food. If you want something that you know you're going to get, this is not one of those bands. They just don't disappoint in that faction. All yours, pal.
There you have it. So if you only buy a few new albums a year, or maybe not even any new albums a year, we just gave you a boatload to check out. So you can do play catch up and go YouTube these or stream them wherever you stream them, and then maybe buy them if you like them and put them on a shelf and look at them and put them in alphabetical order and separate them by genre, and then too many genres, and then you're like, what am I doing? I'm losing my mind. Don't do that. I do that, but don't do that. Then I'm like, where do I keep that band? Is it under grunge? Is it under stoner rock? I can't remember. Then I'm looking all over hell for it. Anyways, if you think we have a lot of new releases we listen to, I bet you Mr. P. Pardo has about 150 new releases here. At least 150, because that guy, he listens to a lot of music. So he's doing his top 50 pretty soon, and that'll be interesting to see. He'll probably have a lot of what you see here. In the meantime, check us out on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, all together, all the damn,
All the damn time.
Hit the notification bell so you get alert of videos as they drop, and hit the like button. Always hit the like button and the notification bell. Did I say notification bell? Yeah, whatever. We got a merch page you below that you can click on. You can. Oh, I don't have the hat on. Oh, we are Penn State. I got a playoff game to watch today. So I don't think Pete has Penn State hats on his page.
No.
Maybe I should talk to him about that. And we got the Ko-fi thing. We got the Cameo page where you give Pete some money, and he will invite you over, and you guys can listen to all 150 new releases that he has in a row with no sleep. You can just sit there and pound Mountain Dew. Scott Lade will be there too. He's bringing the Mountain Dew. And you guys just go, oh, it'll take you about a week and a half to go through. And you guys will look like this afterwards. So that'll be fun and worth the money, right? Until then, until we start a brand new year in January with new reviews and a different crew, I am Jamie Laszlo for Todd, Scott, Phil, and Rick. We are
Take care.
out.